Zella, Sunday mornings starting at 8.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and our friend Kristen McQueary, Chicago Tribune editorial board, had this fun little piece over the weekend about Chicago radio. She's a bit of a Chicago radio junkie, and she likes it local. She mentioned us. I listen to it all. She writes WLS, where my friend Lauren Cohn handles afternoon news and traffic. Exactly. Don't listen to the freaking morning show. Chicago's Morning Answer, AM 560 with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson, where I occasionally co-host.
Did she spell your name right?
She did get the spelling right.
That's the most important thing, Dan.
Yeah.
She spell my name right?
She
with
did
an
spell
O,
your
not
name
an
right.
E.
Oh,
thank you.
yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is correct, right?
An O, not
an
an
O,
E.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, she's got a
Like
good
Son.
Scandinavian sensibility.
Thank you.
VON with Maze Jackson and so on and so forth. But she's all worked up about country station hiring some out-of-towners. She sounds like an old ward boss. We don't want nobody sent. Before we get into the issues, let's talk a little bit about radio. Kristen McQueary, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Now, the question is, do you both know how to spell my name? It's much trickier.
Yes.
McQueary.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah,
home.
you looked
Thank
at the
you.
show sheet,
Thanks.
but okay. So what about what's this? I mean, we appreciate the shout out, of course, in your popular column. But what about what's this beef you have with piping in some out of towners?
Well, I also really like country music. So as I explained in the column, Chicago has 2 country music stations, and one of them last fall switched their format. So they have this kind of cheesy out of town group out of Nashville. You get, they kind of pipe in some local news, but this is Chicago. It's the 3rd biggest city for now. There is a lot of talent here, and there's no reason why we should have to be listening to this kind of goofy clown show out of Nashville. And they, by the way, didn't appreciate the column and talked about it. Talked about it yesterday. So I have some Bobby Bones supporters now emailing me and trying to tell me it's really a great show and give them a chance. And
does Bobby?
yeah.
Bobby Bones. Is that his real name? I'm sure. Bobby Bones.
It's his Christian name. Yeah. Does Bobby Bones know how to pronounce Paulina? That was your big issue. Did you put him to the test? Did he put himself to the test?
I didn't, but I do. I have a whole quiz. I think they want me to come to some event that they're having in August.
Oh, you got to go.
So this little back and forth might not be over. We'll see.
Good. All right. Very good.
Let me know if you take it to the streets. I'll come protest with you. Because I'm a big country fan, too, and I hate that. It's got to be local. That's the only way you can listen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure.
Now he thinks we're both weird.
No, I'm just,
Don't you like country music?
Well, yeah, and I get the whole idea of local. I mean, local-ish. I don't know. The city's so inside its own head. Speaking of which, let's talk about the political class, Kristen. I guess we'll start in the city. Lightfoot at the City Club yesterday, talking about her first 100 days, which sounded very similar to the vague generalities she offered at her inaugural speech, which sounded very similar to the vague generalities she offered during the campaign. So is anything other than managing the decline in the offing for the Lightfoot administration?
Well, I mean, no one is honest about the financial problems that the city faces. And one of my beefs with her right off the bat was that she did what everyone else does and comes in and acts surprised that the numbers are worse than she actually thought. I mean, this should be no surprise. There are books written about how terrible the finances are in the city of Chicago. And to think that any of these Democratic-led bodies have actually been passing balanced budgets, you must have fallen off the turnip truck last week. So I don't like that she's coming in sort of acting surprised at how bad the finances are. But I will say today is there will be a vote on her choice for committee chairman. And I know this sounds in the weeds, but it is important to have more reform-minded aldermen overseeing finance, budget, transportation. And she really did take down some of the old guard. you had Mayor Daley for years, you had Rahm Emanuel, you still had the same people sitting in those powerful committee chairmanships, and she is putting up, it'll be an up or down vote to have her people now overseeing those committees.
And Kristen, do you have any idea which way the aldermen and alderwomen are going to vote? Are they going to back her proposals on this, especially for committee chairmanships?
The key is Wagaspack for finance, right?
I mean, yes, but also she removed like Anthony Beal from transportation. She took out Carrie Austin for overseeing the budget committee. That's big. I mean, these are people who have all of the work of city council and the secret contracts and the workers' comp program and all of these run through these committees. It does have an impact on your wallet. And she now is installing people who are going to welcome financial audits and welcome more scrutiny and more transparency. So I do think she has the votes, Amy. I'm told that she does. Nobody really wants to embarrass themselves with their first step, trying to protect the old way, but it certainly won't be unanimous.
At the state level, big news over the weekend in the dark of night where thieves like to operate. The passage of the graduated state income tax, guaranteeing it will be on the 2020 ballot. So we're at the state level, we're increasing gas taxes, water taxes, streaming taxes, grocery bag taxes, healthcare provider taxes, beer, wine, liquor taxes, car registration, licensing fees, cab taxes for using services like Uber and Lyft, hotel taxes, cigarette taxes, sales taxes, parking tax, RTA tax. And then we're going to graduate the state income tax, too, to go from 4.9 to 7.75, 7.95, plus the corporate tax goes up from 7 to 7.99. At least that's the Jelly Belly proposal. And then obviously this money will be spent to pay down a backlog of unpaid bills and to start paying down unfunded pension liabilities and to right the ship of state.
The only part of what you said that is true are all of the tax hikes, but there's no way that this is going to fix the state. And it's almost embarrassing that this is the way it's being portrayed. And it was on the House floor by the House sponsor, Bob Martwick, who basically said what they've said every time they've passed a tax increase. This is going to help us get on stronger financial footing. It's going to help us pay down bills. It is going to do none of that. We are so underwater, and you're right. By the time even people who might see a little income tax relief under the first phase of these graduated rates, they're going to be paying more at the pump. They're going to be paying more in property taxes. This is not going to be an even deal for them. But it's done. I mean, and here's the part that really frustrates me is just all the voter apathy. We can't vote on term limits. They won't let us vote on redistricting reform, which they're about to embark on a whole new incumbency protection plan with a new set of maps that will make it even worse for a second voice down in Springfield. They block all of that. And yet this proposal for a graduated income tax basically sped through both chambers in a matter of 3 weeks. I mean, that should outrage voters, but of course it doesn't, and they continue to send the same people back to Springfield.
Well, that's because this is like a heaven's gate as a state. This is a death cult. You have to understand, if you have the perspective that people here, the majority here, are reasonable or interested in anything related to substantive arguments, evidence, reality on the ground, then of course you're going to be exasperated all the time. That's why I'm happy-go-lucky. Right. Because I recognize it. I recognize this to be, you have a majority of the state that are waiting for alien spaceships to land and take them to a bigger, better world. And so, okay. So we can destroy the state because the spaceships are coming.
Did you just describe yourself as happy-go-lucky?
That's me.
Did I catch that correctly?
That's me. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. High on life.
I mean, You talked earlier about this reproductive health care bill act that they approved yesterday. The governor said he's going to sign it. I mean, that was a gut-wrenching debate to even watch between Representative Avery Bourne, who is 38 weeks pregnant, comes from a smaller town downstate, Republican, and Kelly Cassidy, who represents a North Side Democratic district, who has talked about the fact that she had an abortion. Wouldn't even really answer questions directly, but I mean, that is a bill that removes a penalty for women who maybe wanted to have an abortion because they wanted a boy, but they're pregnant with a girl. It takes that out. It removes a coroner investigation if a woman dies from an investigation. It forces parents or spouses to pay for abortions that they didn't approve or even know of. It was a really hard debate to watch, and then to watch all these women celebrate afterward was pretty difficult turn of events that the state is heading toward.
In my best Kelly Cassidy,
Here
to
we
our
go.
neighbors in Illinois who hear the news around the country and worry that this war on women is coming to Illinois, I say not on my watch. To the people of Missouri and Alabama and Georgia and Kentucky and Mississippi and Ohio, I say not on my watch. Kelly Cassidy, hero.
Well, I mean, she just repeated the same line throughout the entire back and forth debate, which was, this is a bill that treats abortion care like any other health care, but it isn't. Getting an abortion is not like getting a tooth pulled. No. And so the fundamental premise from which this bill arose and from which supporters came to it was just really hard to watch.
Well, if it was like any other health care provision, then the facilities would actually be state inspected, which of course abortion mills are not. Then you would actually have doctors and doctors limited to doctors performing the procedures, which this bill does not. So this bill soon to become law does not. So, I mean, everything about what Kelly Cassidy and these other ghouls in Springfield are saying is a lie, because the truth is very difficult to stomach, even for those who do not consider themselves pro-life. But here's where we are in Illinois. We can endure neither our vices nor their cures. So we just let the barbarians pursue their barbarism. And that's what's happened over the weekend in Springfield, and it will continue to happen until the spaceships come.
Well, they still have a bill that's sitting in the Senate that would remove parental notification, which would allow minors to get an abortion without even having to notify an adult, or doctors having to make sure an adult is brought into the loop. Even though judicial bypass, which allows people who aren't in that situation, minors, to get some sort of adult involved in the decision-making process, has worked. But they want to remove that too. And the bill that they passed over the weekend yesterday, also would pretty much remove the ban on partial birth abortion, so allow much more late-term pregnancies. And they say that doctors don't perform late-term abortions anyway, but there's a lot of data to suggest that that's also not true.
Oh my God. Did Representative Cassidy ever explain the extraordinary medical measure, for a 36-week-old baby that could be terminated?
I did watch the debate, and I don't think that particular issue came up, but I might have missed it.
Yeah, well, that's because the Republican Party hid behind Avery Bourne's skirt, like the cowards that they are. Total colossal mistake, starting from the premise of the left when it comes to who can speak on the issue of women's health and unborn life. It's idiotic, but that's par for the course as well. Let me ask you about FOID card for those who are interested in their Second Amendment rights in Illinois. The bill bouncing around down there that would increase the FOID card fee. It would double it from $10 to $20, but also in addition to that, fingerprint. Everybody has to get fingerprinted. Oh, that could be an issue.
It could be, and there are still a handful of Democrats who come from more rural areas of Illinois who generally resist that kind of legislation, where that one could actually get caught up, even though the Democrats have a supermajority, could get turned away. They're, of course, steamrolling ahead with a $41 billion capital bill that'll be funded with, gaming revenue that we have recently learned even Republican leaders got in on that deal a few years ago.
Sure.
Operating Bill Brady, the Senate Republican leader, has a role that the Gaming Board and others have identified him as being a key player in video gaming legislation, which he will help usher through the legislature. So, enriching oneself as an elected official hits both sides of the aisle.
Oh, of course. Well, there's no both sides of the aisle, though. There's not even an aisle. It's just the Chicago Democrat crime families, and then the sort of the street level operatives on the Republican Party for them. That's what that is. And so the question, obviously, is with all this good news coming about revenue generation with dope and gaming, When can we look forward to prostitution legalization?
I mean, why not? Why shouldn't a woman be able to consent to
her body?
It's really the only thing that isn't on the table that I'm aware of. But you never know what could be buried in one of these pieces of legislation that's down there. We're hurtling toward May 31st. All of this, if it does get agreed to, will be at the last minute. Huge bills plopped on legislators' desks. But again, voters tolerate it. The Republican Party, which is supposed to be a voice for sanity down there, also tolerates it. And this session under a new governor, same as the previous governor, same as the previous governor.
She is Kristen McQueary, Chicago Tribune columnist and editorial board member. Kristen, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.